us now on our Book Talk segment. We're going to talk to a woman who's written a book that is not only timely, but it's going to be very helpful, I'm sure. It's called When the World Feels Like a Scary Place, Essential Conversations for Anxious Parents and Worried Kids. We're joined today by Dr. Abigail Gewirtz, and she's a child psychologist, leading expert on families under stress particularly, and she's based up in Minnesota, and she joined us by telephone. And Doctor, good to talk with you. How are you today?
Good to talk with you, Doug. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Yeah, I guess sadly, in a sense, you're kind of in the epicenter of what's going on right now up in Minneapolis, right? Or Minnesota. That's where you're based, right?
Sadly so, yes.
Anything better up there right now in the last few days? I guess you're getting a lot of calls, I imagine, from parents with what's going on, right? It's
really so difficult to sort of sort through this. There are so many emotions and feelings, and the incidents that have unraveled not just here in Minnesota, but across the country and around the world over the last couple of weeks have really rocked us all.
And I know when you wrote the book, obviously this was before the last week and a half happened, but even before the corona situation as well, I imagine. But just in general, the world, like you said, the title, World Feels Like a Scary Place. A lot of things going on that kids today, I guess they probably didn't have to deal with 15, 20 years ago. Notwithstanding 9/11, but I mean, other than that, a lot more going on in the last 10 or 15 years, right?
That's exactly right. I decided to write the book back in 2016. At that time, we were seeing an increase in school shootings, really horrendous shootings, to the extent that we were instituting lockdown drills in schools. Who would have thought? I thought tornado drills was the scariest thing I'd have to teach my kids about drilling in school. And then, we've had severe weather events. You're down in Florida, you see it. Worse and worse storms. I believe this hurricane season is going to be even more active than we've seen before. We also have kids 15, 20 years ago, 10-year-olds did not have cell phones. Now 10 is the average age at which a kid gets a cell phone. And that's not even to mention all the things we started this conversation with, the social justice issues, the divided society that we're living in. So that's why I decided to write the book.
I always wonder, and again, nothing wrong with the technology, but, when I was a kid, obviously no cell phones then, you're sort of aware of what was going on in the world, obviously. You watch the news or you read the paper even as a kid, but I think there's so much inundation now, even on the phone, kids are getting information, a lot of it probably bad, that they can't quite process, right? Isn't that part of the problem?
That is exactly part of the problem. You put a finger on it. We want children to filter the world through us, and they usually do, but with cell phones, we cannot keep the world away from them. And So actually one of the conversations in the book is with a 9-year-old boy whose friend sitting on the school bus has a phone, and they see an Amber Alert, kidnapped child, and they see a severe flood warning, and the kid comes home terrified. That child, 9-year-old, doesn't know what an Amber Alert is, and doesn't know that the child who's being kidnapped is not right in his backyard. And so 20 years ago, we could switch off the television, and we can't do that with cell phones.
No. The off switch is in their control at that point, right? If they're not home, so it's much more difficult.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the book. You mentioned it, and the book is designed where you have these conversations. You just mentioned, for that example, conversations, a script in a sense, I guess, right? Actual dialogue that you put together, depending on what the situation is, that parents can go over with their children, right? Talk a little bit about how you put that together.
That's exactly right. So the first half of the book is a series of skills that parents can apply in the second half of the book. The first half of the book is, the parents taking care of dealing with their own emotions about these events. And we all do have feelings about what's been going on, and sometimes we have very intense feelings, and we can't really listen to our own kids if we don't deal with our own feelings. And so that's really the first, and I provide parents some tools and strategies to be able to do that, as well as to think through what is it that they want to convey to their children. What are your values around parenting? What is it that you want your children to remember you by? And then we talk a little bit about how to truly have an essential conversation with your child. So how to sit down and listen and gather information and hear what your child is saying, and then validate their feelings so that you help them understand that feelings are important signals of things that are going on in the world, and we don't have to be ruled and governed by our feelings so that we end up being impulsive and sort of shooting off a barrage on Snapchat or Instagram that we later regret,
Right.
but that we can choose what to do with our feelings, and we can be intentional. And then helping your children to feel less helpless and powerless in the world, because we all feel a lot better when there are things that we can actually do. So that's the first half of the book. And in the second half, as you pointed out, I take each class a Scary World event, and like from violence and school lockdown drills to social media dangers and things like that. And I provide a series of conversations, 4 or 5 conversations in each chapter, that help parents to see what can go wrong in a conversation, the red light, and what can go right. How you can provide your kid the opportunity to really tell you about what's bugging them and to really help them.
You mentioned that word lockdown drill. When I went to school, the only drill we had was a fire drill. The bell would go off and you go outside. They tested that every once in a while. But a lockdown drill, that for kids today, I guess that's second nature. But that's something we never heard of. I don't know if you had to do that when you went to school, but that's relatively new.
Never had to do that. Had to do that. And what a thing to have to explain to your kindergarten.
Yeah, how do you explain that to somebody? Well, if somebody got shot somewhere, you have to be locked in here for a while. That's not easy to understand even as an adult.
Right. Exactly. So I do actually have a conversation in there about a kindergartner and that who has a lockdown drill, and that came from actually my editor, who said to me the first time I met her, I just got an email from the school saying they're doing a lockdown drill tomorrow. What on earth am I supposed to tell my child? And those are real concerns that parents have about all kinds of issues like this. And so I just felt that I could, as a child psychologist, I could provide the tools to parents that might help them navigate these tricky conversations.
Now you go from up to 18, obviously, but as little as 3, right? So, 3-year-olds kind of can pick up what's going on, so that is the concern. 3-year-olds can feel even if they may not understand much, they can understand there's something going on, right?
Oh boy, can they. The kid doesn't need to be able to talk to be able to know exactly what their parent is thinking and feeling. They just need to look at you. Right. And they know. And so, for example, children as young as 3, you walk around the supermarket, you see them on the iPads and the iPhones, they're often really pretty adept at them. And so they can, even though we think we can protect them, they can end up seeing things that we wish they wouldn't see. Yeah. And then we have to talk it through with them.
Well, the book is called When the World Feels Like a Scary Place, Essential Conversations for Anxious Parents and Worried Kids. And Dr. Abigail Gewirtz has been our guest today. I wish we had more time, but give out your information, website, or whatever you like to give out. People can get more information about the book. Absolutely.
My website is abigailgewirtz.com. That's spelled ABIGAILGEWIRTZ, all one word.com. And on the website, parents will find not only information about the book and some other resources, but also an actual conversation between parents and children about the coronavirus.
Great, yeah, that's a whole other, probably a whole book right there, isn't it? But maybe volume 2. But
you got it.
Well, Doctor, pleasure talking to you. We'll put a link up as well on our website, but thanks for being with us, and hopefully we can talk to you again.
That would be my pleasure. Thank you, Doug.
I'm Stan Brock. 30 years ago, I formed Remote Area Medical to help people overseas. But then we found generations of families in America isolated by poverty from the health care they need. Together, we can take dental, vision, and medical help to 1 million adults and their kids, right here at home in the United States of America.